Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words. Today we are playing some Legacy, but not just any Legacy, we're playing my beloved Turbo Depths. This is a deck that I have an awful lot of reps on, and I do have a detailed guide to it on my Patreon, which you can find linked in the description. So the aim of the game here is to make a 20/20. So this land comes in with 10 counters on. When it has no counters, we get a 20/20 indestructible flyer. So we can remove the counters with Hexmage, or we can make a copy with Thespian Stage, and because Thespian Stage didn't enter as Dark Depths, it doesn't have any counters on, and then we get ourselves a 20/20. In order to facilitate this, we have some fast mana in the form of Elvish Spirit Guide and Lotus Petal. We also have some hand disruption, Thoughtseize, Duress, Inquisition. We have some tutors in the form of Crop Rotation and Sylvan Scrying, and a little bit of smoothing over in the form of Once Upon a Time. To make sure that this sticks, we've got some protection as well in the form of Pithing Needle for Wastelands and Caracas, Disruptor Flute as like the 5th copy of Pithing Needle, and a couple of Not of This World. There's also some silver bullets in the land like Ghost Quarter to fight against additional lands that we need to be worried about, as well as the Sejiri Steppe and the Boseiju, and of course the Bojuka Bog. So this particular version is a little bit different to what we were playing before the bannings. Because of the bannings, we don't need as many answers to Brazen Borrower because there's going to be less of that floating around. So we've now gone up to 2 Duress and down to 1 Inquisition of Kozilek. In terms of the sideboard, I'm expecting a lot of Mystic Forge decks, so we're playing the Void Mirror. The reason I like Void Mirror here is not only does it stop Mystic Forge decks quite well, but one of the ways that Mystic Forge decks can beat us is using Kozilek's command. So this will hopefully counter that Kozilek's command. This can also do some work against the Cloud Post decks, where they're trying to just pay colorless to get a Kozilek's command and kill our guy. It's not going to work if we have the Void Mirror. So that's what we're trying out today. I've tried it in a couple of leagues and it was fine, but I haven't played against the matchup enough to necessarily know. Other things in the sideboard, Abrupt Decay, it blows up all the permanents we care about, Blood Moons and Snare and Bridget, all that sort of jazz. We got a little bit of Graveyard Hate and Faerie Macabre. We might be able to ease back on this, but I'm not sure yet, so we'll find out soon. A couple more Not of This World and some Sylvan Safekeepers to protect our creature. That is what we're playing today. If you're interested in this deck, then I have loads of videos playing it on my channel, as well as stuff on my Patreon related to this. Alright, let's get stuck in. Remember to like and subscribe, and let's make some 20/20s. Have you got magic cards you don't want taking up space in your home, or do you just need some extra spending money? Well, my lovely sponsors, 3for1 Trading, are buying all collections, big and small. They are one of Europe's biggest traders and have a transparent process to sell them cards and make sure you're getting a good deal. Click the link in the description of this video to get an offer on your cards today. So our opening hand has turn 1 hand disruption, turn 3 combo. That's fine. We can fish for something a little bit better if we want, but I think this is reasonable enough that we're going to be getting on with it. We have a bunch of things that can speed up our combo as well. If we draw an Urborg, for example, or a Crop Rotation, we can maybe go a bit quicker. Scalding Tarn. If this is going to be something like Delver, then we might have to take things a little bit slower. If it's Sneak and Show, then we need to go a bit faster. Our matchup into Sneak and Show is traditionally very strong. Our matchup into Omnitel, not so much. It's fine. It's like kind of even with Omnitel. Like they either do the thing or they don't really. Alright, so this is almost certainly going to be Delver, but they didn't lead off on a threat, which is beautiful news for us. We have to be wary of Wastelands, so this might be getting us a basic Swamp, so that we can continue to cast spells, or we might try and bait out a Wasteland with it, depending on what we draw. A Pithing Needle. That is certainly an interesting one. Let's go and get ourselves a Bayou here. And we're going to Inquisition our opponent. Right, they're dazing that. I could pay for this daze using this Spirit Guide. This is also a thing that we can use to put a Pithing Needle in, which will give us the ability to dodge Wasteland, which is the thing we care about most in our opponent's deck. So I'm just going to let this daze go through, and then I'm going to get this Pithing Needle down. Alright, we're getting a Force of Will on Pithing Needle. So our opponent's hand probably contains a Wasteland. We got a Brainstorm for our trouble off of our opponent's pitch card. I assume we're going to see a threat here. That's fine. Crop Rotation. Do I believe our opponent has another piece of interaction? We've gone through a lot of stuff over here. I think I'm willing to send here. I think we're odds on for this to work. So we can get our Urborg, play our Dark Depths, deploy our Hexmage, and we're going to do this now so that we don't get wastelanded. So they might have a Brazen, but what is this? This is an Avatar and Marit Lage token. That is not what I was expecting to see when I cracked this. So if those are unaware, I own the artwork of the actual Marit Lage token. So this is a big downgrade from what I'm used to. This has to attack this turn, so they can't fend it off. Alright, so we got through a couple of pieces of permission and then just stuck the thing. Alrighty. Our deck is pretty much pre-boarded for Delver, because Delver is a very popular deck. And it's probably the thing that people are going to pivot to a lot because people love playing that sort of style of deck. So I think what we probably take out here is the Once Upon a Time and some Bojuka Bogs. And that gives us access to like another Not of This World and then a couple of Abrupt Decays. So you can just have 3 Abrupt Decays and just the 2 Not of This World. I'm not sure how many Brazen Borrowers these decks are running at the moment. I'm going to assume they're running 2 to 3. So I'm going to just submit with 3 Not of This World, and we don't need to have more in there. This has traditionally been a very good matchup for us TurboDepths players, and one of the reasons to even play this deck in the first place. The blue-black tempo matchup is a bit different. I prefer playing against blue-red Delver a lot more, because they can't really answer our creature very easily. Okay, we've got some tools here. I don't know if this is what I want to run with, though. We don't... Well, I guess we have some protection against Wasteland, because we can crop rotate in response to them wastelanding us. You can play a much slower game against Delver because they're not trying to clock you that quickly. Like, yes, they are ostensibly an aggro deck, but they're not like a combo deck that's trying to kill you in the first couple of turns. They usually want to play out about 5 turns of the game, which is loads of time. Here comes the DRC. The Spirit Guide also helps us beat a daze that our opponent might not be expecting. A Thoughtseize, big fan of that for us. Let's go and get a Swamp here. Just play on basics. These are actually the basics I play in real life as well. I love the Onslaught ones. Let's have a little look at your hand. So this time, if they daze, I'm going to pay with my Spirit Guide. The information I value very highly here, as well as the fact that we're playing on basics for a little bit anyway. Brainstorm, Ponder, Price of Progress. I don't care about Price of Progress. I think the Brainstorm is the scariest card to me, because this can just fix their hand. So goodbye Brainstorm, let's make this a bit smaller, so we can keep track of what they've got. They're almost certainly just going to cast a Ponder this turn. And there it is. So we've got 2 mystery cards to play through this turn. They bind over a land. Are they going to keep this Ponder pile or shuffle? If we draw a Lotus Petal, we can make an attempt to combo. They did not shuffle off the Ponder. Is that a bluff? Is that a display of strength? I guess we'll find out soon. I have to imagine it's going to be trying to interact with our game plan rather than anything else. Oh, okay. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Right. So if we'd have led off on a Bayou, we would have been able to attempt to combo that turn. So our opponent's going to get another turn of sculpting, potentially. But I think playing into our basics when we already had one of our basics made a lot of sense. Somewhat reward if there's Price of Progress as well. Do we think our opponent has access to a Force of Negation in their deck? So we could float black here and go and try and get the Urborg. I think that's reasonable. We have an Urborg. Deploy this. Cast your friend and mine. Vampire Hexmage. So because they have this mana up, I'm going to go for it in their upkeep. So they can't get a Wasteland in, but if they spend mana, it's spent. Instead of them getting 2 bites of the cherry with their mana. They could stifle this if they're running stifle. Doesn't look like they are. Okay, so we have a Sejiri Steppe to cover us. Polluted Delta. The Dragon's Rage Channeler doesn't have to attack, so they can cast some spells in their second main phase to turn this into a blocker. We can try and push through the blocker using the crop rotation. But I think holding this, if they have mana up, there's no way we do that. Is this just going to be what Marit Lage Avatar looks like from now on Magic Online? A Petty Theft. They got 3 cards in hand, we know what one of them is. We are going to sacrifice a land. The question is, which land do we sacrifice? This allows us to tutor for more lands. So I think we're going to crop rotation, sacrificing our Urborg. Alright, we've got Force of Will here. That's pretty good, obviously. So we're going to lose our Marit Lage. We didn't take any damage this turn. We do have the combo in hand. We just need a little bit more mana, and our opponent is out of resources here. Obviously, they got a 3/3 and it's Price of Progress. But if we just draw a land now, boom. That's pretty useful. This will become a Bayou. I will Sylvan Scrying. Well, we know this is going to resolve. I'll go and get another copy of Dark Depths. So a Lotus Petal off the top is lethal. Another Channeler. That means we still have perfect information. They can fire this off for 2 damage. We can take 3 here. So let's draw a Lotus Petal, please. Or a crop rotation also does it. Thespian Stage. Okay. So this Thespian stage is probably going to become a copy of a Bayou unless our opponent deploys a Wasteland this turn. We can also turn this into a Forest if we want to preserve damage, because we're currently taking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So maybe we have to do that. Margins here are a little bit tighter than I would like. So we've kind of got this weird stalemate right now. So we could copy our Forest right now, but then they'll Price of Progress in response. We could copy our Bayou, and their Price of Progress hit us for the same amount that they would hit us anyway. Or we can hold this up and then try and get through that way. So we're currently taking 4 off of this. This is going to kill us next turn if they Price of Progress us. But they just Price of Progress us in response to the Dark Depths. They also have the creature. I think we're just dead here, actually. That extra Force of Will they had was a little bit too much for us. We need our opponent to make some sort of error here. It's very, very difficult for them to make an error when these have to attack. But they know we have cards in hand. They might be under the impression that we can do something here. But they can win in a numerous amount of ways. They can, for example, they could have flashed in the Brazen Borrower, and that would also do it. We need our opponent to forget they have this Price of Progress in hand. I think the world is in an okay place if people are winning the game by casting Price of Progress, though. Whether or not Legacy is going to be fine in the long run, we don't know. But, you know, Price of Progress is a card that's only good after you've played a bunch of turns of Magic the Gathering. So I'm pretty happy with how we have this all put together. I'm happy to submit. I played this matchup hundreds of times at this point. We don't have to worry about Wasteland, which is one of the scariest things our opponent has. We have the ability to mess with some of their other bits and pieces. This hand is fine. It does risk just getting Delwood pretty hard, though. I think we're going to mulligan with something a little bit more powerful. Alright, I'll keep this one. I'm going to put back the Forest here. We get to lead off on a Thoughtseize. And we will get the Bayou here. They have 2 Wastelands. Okay, we should have kept the other hand, I guess. Dragon's Rage Channeler, Bauble, Brainstorm, Tamiya. Not a lot for us to enjoy from what our opponent's putting down there. I think the answer is Brainstorm still. So we want our opponent to play this Tamiya out so they're not playing out the Wasteland. I guess we want to deploy our Lotus Petal here so we can crop rotate around what our opponent's doing. We have some draws that can win us the game next turn, effectively. Now we do still have to fade some things our opponent can have. There is a Bauble. Now are they going to do anything with this Wasteland? Cracking the Bauble. And a Urborg, you say. Let's get Scrying down. I'll take a Thespian stage. We still have this crop rotation that we can fire off if our opponent gets frisky with a Wasteland. I wonder if our opponent tries to play it with just playing another Wasteland, or are they going to actually start developing their own board? They are pretty worried about us comboing, which is reasonable. A Ghost Quarter, you say. I'll play a Thespian stage out. We have more things that combo with Dark Depths than the other way around. Alright, Scalding Tarn. That's not the land we knew about. So this is presumably going to be a Channeler. Otherwise, they'd probably play the island here. Yep, so there is. Let's try and copy their Wasteland and see what our opponent wants to do about it. They're targeting our Thespian stage. Alright, let's sacrifice the Thespian stage they're targeting and see if they respond. Alright, they do have a Daze. Sure. But we forced action on the Wasteland and we got a card out of our opponent's hand. We're not under a lot of pressure. Not yet, anyway. Alright, this is a 3-3 now. That's a little bit more pressure. I think if we'd have kept that first time with all the Pithing Needles, we'd probably just win this one. And then we draw a Pithing Needle. I'll play this Ghost Quarter and then I'm going to Pithing Needle. This way, if they Wasteland our Bayou, we can Ghost Quarter ourselves to get a green source. Oh, they got Force of Will as well. Okay, they've drawn pretty good since the first hand we saw. But we did give them a lot more time than I would normally like to give a Delver opponent. We got Bauble going on. So if we draw a Vampire Hexmage, we can just play it, play the Depths, and then we can force the action because we can Ghost Quarter their Wasteland, and then they have to respond. But we don't play out the Depths until their Hexmage is resolved. Which does leave us slightly exposed to Daze, but not in a massive way. Because our opponent's probably not going to have Lightning Bolts in at this point, unless they really don't have that many things left. So our Hexmage should be relatively safe. So we're going to take a little bash for 3. It's the first time our opponent's hitting us and it's turn 4. An Abrupt Decay. Not the most exciting, but we can obviously tangle with this Dragon's Rage Channeler if we so wish. This is going to be extra time for us. All right, so they are pondering here. We could have stopped them getting this Surveil if we'd have Abrupt Decayed in our turn. But we want to give our opponent an opportunity. They left a card on top, so it ended up not mattering. But this way, it gives us an opportunity to mess with our opponent if they play something else. But they know that this is coming because they saw it off the bauble. Yes, that is the third Wasteland. Yikes. Should have just kept that double Pithing Needle hand and just won this game immediately. A swamp. I will play out a swamp. 3 Wasteland, 4 Civil Days is quite a lot for us to contend with. But we're not even out of this game, so we've got some time. Multi-Regent, is that coming down? No, it's Corey Steelcutter. This is something that I would have liked to have tagged with an Abrupt Decay, but their selection tool that also beats us down when it's the only thing on the board. Alright, they brought in Meltdown for our Pithing Needles. And they've just got an island in hand now. And they've tapped... Oh, they forgot to attack. Alright. Well, I don't know if this is going to matter or not, but we'll find out. A Sylvan Scrying, you say? What do we do with Sylvan Scrying? We could get a Boseiju and blow up the Corey Steelcutter. I think I would rather try and win the game. So we go and get ourselves a Thespian stage here. Then we deploy the stage. They drew a Flooded Strand. Are they holding this island in hand? I don't think they've had any way of putting it back. This can get them... well, I guess it probably can't get them Surveil land. They've probably already used their Surveil land. Come on deck. A Lotus Petal. Not really the one we're after, is it? We're going to hold this in hand for now. So we get Thespian stage copying the Wasteland. It's not really what I'm here to do right now. We need to find another tutor effect or another Thespian stage and we can start forcing action here. Or we can find a Hexmage is good too. We've got a lot of draws that just pretty much win us the game. Bayou is not one of them though. I don't want to play this out because we've already seen Price of Progress. Our opponent's going to be getting into the territory of possibly being able to double spell soon. And we are just bricking. So we've got 3 crop rotations, 2 Sylvan Scryings, 2 Thespian stages, 4 Vampire Hexmages. So we've got so many things that are just going to win us the game. But our opponent's had a lot of time now. Verdant Catacombs. Cracking this can be the difference between living and dying. Do we want to play out? I think I will play this land out because if we find another Thespian stage, being able to activate multiple things is kind of a big deal. Now our opponent's built up a hand of 4 cards. And we are just breaking off hugely here. Why are you doing this to me, deck? Well, we don't know what our opponent's drawn. They might have also bricked off, but I suspect they just sat there with counter spells and stuff in hand. And I think our window is probably gone because we should be on 4. Right, Brainstorm. They're going to be able to shuffle away some bits and pieces here. We've got Bauble, so they're going to trigger the Corey Steelcutter. So we would be dead now if our opponent had not missed that attack earlier. Our fetch land is off, but it does tap for black underneath the Urborg. But if they have any spell here, they also just kill us right away. They're cracking their Mystery Rainforest, which suggests to me they're going to cast a spell. Any spell is good here. I don't think we get to win from this position, though. We're too far behind. I think blowing up the... Okay, they do have a Lightning Bolt in still. I think blowing up the Corey Steelcutter with our Abrupt Decay would have not really made much of a difference because we'd have been taking 3 every turn instead of the 2. Yeah, we bricked off pretty hard there. But you saw how good our opponent's draw was. It was triple Wasteland. They had the Force and the Daze. This is all quite early on. And we still had a chance to win the game. If we didn't brick on like 5 draws in a row there, then we would have just won that game still. Because if we just have a Hexmage, then we can Thespian stage, copy the Wasteland, and then we can Ghost Quarter the other Wasteland, and then the Hexmage Depths goes through. We had lots of time. We just couldn't string it together. And that sometimes happens. All right, on to round 2. Okay, this one gets us there, and we have quite a bit of poking at our opponent's hand, so we'll keep this one. There is a decision what we get here, land-wise. I'm going to get a Bayou. Let's Thoughtseize first, because this can hit anything. Okay. I don't particularly want to play against Solitude with this hand. So then we take the Solitude here, and then we play out the Lotus Petal in case our opponent has access to any kind of Chalice effect that they maybe put on 0. They shouldn't be putting on 0. I suspect we're going to see Favor the Mirror Breaker. They're playing the Chrome Mox as well. They draw the Undermountain Adventure or whatever it's called. Cave. I can't remember what it's called. It's going to be Seasoned Dungeoneer maybe. Fourth Eorlingus. Okay. They've decided to put the Monarch into this game. We need 1 or 2 more turns at this point. Ghost Quarter. That doesn't really help with what we're trying to accomplish right now. Let's see what they've drawn. They've got nothing over there. We could play the Sejiri Steppe now to get the tap land out of the way. I think that makes sense. We could have played the Ghost Quarter or the Dark Depths here. We don't want them to draw Mages of the Moon off the top, which obviously is a thing I've just said, so it's probably going to happen. It's just a Summoning Spirit Guide. And then next turn we get to make Marit Lage. Maybe we get to make Marit Lage, we'll see. No, we do get to make Marit Lage, what am I talking about? Pithing Needle isn't relevant here. So yeah, this is the correct mana we need. Try not to get killed by... I guess they can't even Solitude us. Well, they got 1 mystery card because they got the extra Monarch card, didn't they? They don't have Wastelands in their deck, so I'm not going to respect them. Do they have sorcery speed removal for our stuff? I think the only sorcery speed thing they might have is Touch the Spirit Realm, but that has an instant speed mode that will also do the same job. It's clobbering time. Let's have a 20/20 creature. I'll block one of the Tramplers, so we'll take 4, which importantly means we can take another hit if something goes horribly wrong and not be immediately dead. Did they draw into another Solitude? They did not, and we get to win that game with our ugly Avatar. I love Avatar the Last Bender as a thing, but I don't want my Marit Lage token to look like that. So Pithing Needle and the Hand Disruption is a little bit sketchy here. This is a matchup where we want protection for our guys, stuff to blow up their things. Or I say our guys, I mean our guy. We don't need a Bojuka Bog here either. Check out the Ghost Quarter as well. Although they might have Karakas. But then the Disruptor Flute covers that as well, but we can shoot it for the Ghost Quarter, so it's probably slightly better. Okay, that's what we're going for. So Thoughtseize hits their 4-drop creatures, whereas these things don't, and that's the thing we kind of scared about, like the Solitude and things like that. This is a turn 2, if you're willing to go for it. There's no protection here. It's just raw speed, and our opponent knows that we're faster than them. So I don't think we get to keep this one. We just keep the raw speed and we just go turn... Maybe we just surprise them with a turn 2, but we just kind of cold to a Solitude. All right, we'll try it. I don't think I really want to keep this one, but I think it's worth showcasing why this might be a thing. Okay, they brought in Leyline the Void, which is obviously completely useless against us, but I'll take it. Their deck that hemorrhages cards all the long day. We also have an Elvish Spirit Guide, so we're pretty close to Abrupt Decay mana. They put a Solitude. That means an Archon of Emeria. Okay, that doesn't actually change our clock at all. 2 cards left in their hand. Putting the Solitude underneath suggests that they either don't have other white cards or they have more ways of dealing with Marit Lage. I'll take a small slice of damage here. A Crop Rotation. I could go slightly slower here and have Sejiri Steppe. That involves us playing Ghost Quarter right now. Our opponent did nothing with their last turn. We're going to go slightly slower here. We're not under oodles of pressure either. Prismatic Vista, this gives them access to red mana. If they play a Blood Moon, we have access to both of our colours, so we just draw one of our Abrupt Decays and we win the game. The One Ring. That's a pretty good magic card, as it turns out. I'm glad we didn't hold up to try and win the game this turn. They get to cast 1 spell a turn though, so One Ring not actually the most useful under Archon of Emeria situation. Oh, and a Not of This World. Alright, we are pretty odds on for this one, I would say. What is your 1 spell going to be this turn? If they play 1 spell, then they're very, very dead, I think. They could hold back with an Archon of Emeria. Playing an Ancient Tomb. So they're going to hemorrhage a lot of life for whatever they're doing right now. Fable of the Mirror Breaker with 1 mana floating. Okay. I have no interest in blocking this Archon of Emeria. I don't want our opponent to be able to play multiple spells, because that's how we lose from this point. Yeah, this game is just over now. They can't cast any spells because they're an Archon and they've already cast a spell. They go to our turn, they can cast 1 spell, but we have a protection spell. So there's just no doing here. Alright, a pretty clean 2-0 there. Let's go on to round number 3. This is a turn 3 with a little bit of protection in the form of Sejiri Steppe. I think this is fine. We have a lot of draws that speed this up. Oh, they've gone to 5. So having the ability to potentially Bojuka Bog could be huge here. Now, we can't Bojuka Bog on turn 1. Even though we could cast it, we can't pay the additional cost. We need a land in play first. 4 cards. This could be an Echo of Eon strategy with Lion's Eye Diamonds, so it doesn't really matter what we keep in our opener. And we just end up with a new 7. Now, our deck is very consistent at what it does. It's not the end of the world, but we'll see how this progresses. Okay, they're going to Thoughtseize us. They're going to take probably one of our crop rotations. But joke's on you. Because I've got another one. But they know that they can't go off into this. I don't really want to show my opponent what I've drawn. We're having to go a little bit slower here so that we can at least interact. Okay, a tapped land. That's good news for us. I don't really want to draw another land, so I'm going to take the marginal thinning opportunity here. It's basically 0, but we're not going to be punished for having non-basics in play because of the nature of our opponent's deck. So we have the Spirit Guide that we can use. Right, we're going to Sylvan Scrying. We still have the Elvish Spirit Guide. We're not going to need it right now anyway. We go and get ourselves a Thespian stage here. We could go and get some land destruction and hurt our opponent's ability to actually make land drops. A Thoughtseize. I don't think our opponent can go off with what they have in hand though. So probably take our crop rotation for obvious reasons. That leaves us in a little bit of trouble, potentially. Go for Hexmage off the top, why not? So you can put our opponent in check here. They've got 2 cards in hand. If one of them is Dark Ritual, one of them is one of the Oops creatures, then we lose. And so be it. 1 draw to rule them all. Okay, I think our opponent needs a top deck here by the sound of that. Unless they're just talking about my draw being very good. Cabal Ritual. They're going to make the Undercity Informer. Okay, they just have a bunch of mana. Alright. Let's go to the sideboard. So, Void Mirrors and Faerie Macabres. So, the Void Mirrors are much worse than Collector Roof in this matchup. Must be noted. This isn't particularly... actually, Pithing Needle's fine. Not great, but fine. We don't need Not of This World. We don't need Sejiri Steppe. The land destruction stuff is fine. Disruptor Flute costs more than Pithing Needle, but can actually tag multiple things. The Once Upon a Time can find us the Faerie Macabre, so it's probably best to have something of this sort of configuration. This doesn't stop us from losing the game on turn 1. But if we get a turn, we can really attack our opponent's hand. And their protection doesn't attack our hand. I think this is okay. We have to not lose the game rather than win the game here. Now, they might have pivoted to something else. They could have Charbelchers in there, which again we can disrupt with this, and the Pithing Needle's pretty good against Charbelcher. We could be facing down a Creature Duke, which is terrible against us, so I don't think they're going to do that. They can just play their creatures out and hope for the best. That is an option. But most of their creatures are going to be able to combo them anyway. If you're worried about Oopsal spells, you can stick some ley lines in your sideboard, and it usually buys you enough time to beat this side of their plan. Given that Blue-Black Reanimator is gone right now, this is one of the things I want to check to see if we need the Faerie Macabres or they should be a different form of Graveyard Hate. I'm going to try and get an update to my existing list and a little guide to it ready before the next Eternal Weekend so people can have a look if they want to play Turbo Depths. Our opponent's mulligan to 4 at this point, so we've got a good chance of our Thoughtseize just poking a massive hole in our opponent's deck. Oh, looks like they're having a real rough time. They've gone to 3. Right, they're keeping on 3. I don't believe they can kill us. Right, we're getting Thoughtseized, but they don't get to disrupt our Thoughtseize because we have 2 of them. And we can just beat down with the Hexmage. I took one of our Thoughtseizes. Wonder what the last card in the hand is. Everything in their deck gets taken by our Thoughtseizes anyway. Alright, we have a turn 2 Marit Lage. And you might say, oh, that's quite lucky you drew that. But our deck is dedicated to doing that one thing. We'll take the Spy. Crop rotate this away. Go and get a Dark Depths. Here comes the Hexmage. I don't believe our opponent can kill us on 3 cards, including this. Just having a little chat with our opponent, but we managed to take the match down, mostly because our opponent's deck faltered, but we had some good pressure with these Thoughtseizes anyway. Alright, on to round 4. Alright, our opener is not a keeper. If I remember rightly, our opponent used to be a really well-known Elves player. So maybe they're going back to that now. There's been some bannings, but we'll see. Let's mulligan. And this just needs a land and it's golden, so we'll keep this. Probably don't need a second crop rotation, given what we have here. And the Disruptor Flute might be useful if our opponent is doing something combo-y. Polluted Delta. That doesn't strike me as something that an Elf player would put into their deck. Underground Sea. Alright, it's just a little Nethergoyf. It's a friendly little friend. Urborg here. And then I will play this out so we can threaten to pay for a daze. I don't particularly want to pay for a daze though. This is the hardest tempo matchup, I think. Brainstorm, Force of Will, Murktide Regent, Ponder. I suppose we take the Force because we can take another bite out of their hand in a minute. Grow the Nethergoyf slightly. They're going to Ponder and grow the Nethergoyf slightly more. And we're going to get bashed for 3. But our clock will be faster than our opponent's. It's a case of whether or not we can draw the land and actually get to combo off here. Just need 1 more mana to get a 2020 into play. If we draw Dark Depths itself, we also get to Duress first, which is huge. We could Duress instead of going for the combo next turn, depending on what we're worried about. Right, double Ponder. So they drew a Polluted Delta and a Ponder. And now they're going to draw 1 other card. So we're going to have 1 mystery card that we have to fight through. If we miss on land, then we're just going to be Duressing. But if we wait too long, we could get caught out by a Disruptor Flute. They decline to use Ponder's ability. In comes the Goyf. Another Hexmage. I think it's Duress time. They have another Nethergoyf. So we'll take the Brainstorm so we can keep this information. We just need to find a land. That's all we require. If we find a land before our opponent finds a Brazen Borrower or a Wasteland, please. Alright, they found another Ponder, so that's 4th cantrip. They only cast 2 previous ones because we took the last one. This is a lot of dig to find what they're after. If they find a Wasteland, we probably just have to crop rotate away this Urborg into another Urborg. It's a tropical island. And a Brainstorm. Alright. Wishing for more wishes over there. This is going to jumble up their hand entirely, and we're not going to have any information to work with. I suspect we'll see the other Nethergoyf just so they can keep applying pressure. I don't know if we get to play conservatively here. I think we just have to go for it on our turn if we hit the land. We did not hit the land. I don't think there's any point playing this Hexmage out now because that loses our green source. I think we maybe get 1 more draw step here before our deck completely decides to punish us. We need all the lands that we had in that other game where we just bricked off against the Delver player. We used up all of our land drops there, I guess. Our land draws. It's going to put us to 6. If they play another threat, they could potentially beat us even if we do assemble Marit Lage. Although if they play this Murktide Regent, they're going to shrink the Nethergoyfs. But not by much probably, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they could just get rid of like land, Ponder, Ponder, Brainstorm, Brainstorm. And then they don't shrink the Nethergoyfs. Now they might not still have this, they might have brainstormed it further into their deck. But I think that would be a pretty good play if I was our opponent. Alright, they're brainstorming again. We're getting Thoughtseize as well. If they Thoughtseize us, we have to draw... Yeah, we can still just draw Dark Depths. Okay, you can do this. I was working out if I want to conceal the information. But I'm obviously pretty well known for playing Turbo Depths, so maybe they know what we're playing already. We've given them some indication. Okay, going to take the crop rotation here. I can't believe we just bricked on lands for 4 turns. Whatever it was. Boseiju. This is a creature. It does block. It keeps us alive for another chance. We've got 1 card in hand. We can draw another crop rotation. We can draw a Dark Depths itself. There are options available to us where we don't lose this game. If they'd have played the Murktide Regent last time, I think we'd be very dead though. We do have to block here. This means that if we assemble our combo now, it's probably not going to be good enough. We just needed 1 land for all those turns. There's the Murky Boy. I don't think we can win this one now. Bojuka Bog. You would have been a bit interesting last turn. We could have shredded all of this. But if we remove all these counters, we're just going to grow the Murktide. Alright. Our deck did not cooperate. Let's go to the sideboard. Alright. Then we take out some... Bojuka Bog does impact our opponent's strategy sometimes, but not usually in a way we care about. We just brought in these Abrupt Decays because they sometimes have the Harbinger of the Seas, and this can deal with it. We could have more Not of This World action, but generally speaking, they're not going to have that many Brazen Borrowers. They're going to have a mix of Brazen Borrowers and Shoulder's Edict. So we're just going to run it like this. This is definitely the worst of the tempo variants for our deck. This doesn't have access to our combo piece, which is kind of a big deal. However, we do have the ability to shut down Pithing Needles, disrupt our opponent's early plan. This is going to leave us trying to find one of 12 cards in our deck. Now we have 53 cards in our deck, so it's going to take us maybe 5 turns to draw that, statistically speaking. I don't think we can keep this hand. Alright, this hand looks pretty tasty to me. I will take this. Let me just put back the decay. I hope you like an inevitable stream of scary creatures. Because we're going to be able to make multiple Marit Lages this game, which is one way you can tax decks that have removal. Because we can go turn 2 Marit Lage, and if that doesn't work, we have turn 3 uncounterable Marit Lage. Just a ponder, not super scary. They didn't shuffle. Oh, a Lotus Petal is quite nice here as well. Here comes a Hexmage. This is going to require a Force of Will. Okay, they don't have one. So we can make a 20/20. We don't have to worry about Wasteland, so we don't have to do it right now. We can see if our opponent taps mana or not. Because presumably they just have to hold up 2 mana at all times. Yep, they're just holding it up there. That's fine. An Elvish Spirit Guide. Let's play out the Thespian stage, and we can attack for 2 here. So we basically have like a double Rishdam Port effect going on with this Hexmage that's going to also attack them for damage. So it's like Sulfuric Vortex meets double Rishdam Port is what we've got over here. So the Edict effect they're likely to be playing is Shoulder's Edict, which obviously Hexmage we can't sacrifice our creature for. So they're going to choose token, and then we're going to lose our Dark Depths token rather than the Hexmage. Could see a play of getting a Surveil land here. They could also try and interfere with our Pithing Needle, which forces us to do something on their turn before they can play a Wasteland. Just a brainstorm. So this turn we can make the Marit Lage in the end step regardless of what they're doing and just force through their defenses and then immediately deploy another one. It's unlikely they're going to have access to 2 removal spells because they probably only have 2 to 3 in their whole deck. The general way they want to win this one is by Thoughtseizing our combo pieces or countering them or wastelanding them. They're not really great at dealing with us on the stack. Our creature in play. Okay, so playing out the Nethergoyf. This means we are free to debts. I would also like a Bayou here while we're at it. So this Tamiyo is going under the bus. Do they have a Brainstorm? They do indeed. Our opponent does enjoy drawing the Brainstorms. But they're on a low enough life tail that we don't care about this -1. I'll play another Dark Depths. I'm not going to play out the Spirit Guide here. So our opponent can bounce this in our next turn. And then we have to then go through another turn cycle. We do have Hexmages we can draw to just get rid of the Tamiyo once and for all. We've got Pithing Needles that can deal with it as well. But generally speaking, our plan is to smash our opponent in the face and they lose the game. We could draw a Sejiri Steppe here, or a Crop Rotation, which could be interesting. Kaito, Bane of Nightmares. This doesn't work. They stun our guy, then we just make another guy. And this one won't be stunned. Alright, we got the game. Our opponent was just testing us to see if we see it, which is fair enough. You got to play to your out sometimes. Alright, the final game. We could put in another Knot as well just to help against Kaito, potentially. Could try that. I'm not sure. I do think we want these Abrupt Decays. Maybe we just trim a Disruptor Flute here. And try it like this. Slightly different configuration. I don't really like Sylvan Safekeeper here because we don't get to attack with it into Tamiyo because that's just not a thing that works because Tamiyo invalidates combat. I'll just try this extra Not of This World. This hand doesn't fill me with any joy. Let's mulligan it. Ugh. This has some severe problems. We kind of need to spend a bunch of resources just to get mana that works. I guess we're mulliganing to 5. This one is fine for what it is. I will have a Dark Depths. I will have a Thespian stage. I will take this Spirit Guide. And then it gets a little bit trickier. Probably lose the Abrupt Decay. Which of these go? Protection. Probably what goes here. We can Thoughtseize our way. Sorry, not the protection. The Crop Rotation is what we want to get rid of here. It's already a bit shy of resources. We just need 1 additional piece of mana. So if I can draw like a Swamp here, so we can just Thoughtseize our opponent, then we're going to be okay. Now our opponent gets to Thoughtseize us as well. And that's exactly what's happening here. I think they take the Spirit Guide, because that just takes us further away from the combo. But they could take the Not of This World if they've got an answer. They just want to have that running. But then they might as well take the Thoughtseize as well, because us having information is really huge. Because we get to leverage information way better than our opponent, because we can work out exactly how to get through the puzzle that is our opponent's interaction. Whereas they basically know what we're going to be doing every time. They might not know the exact configuration of how it works. All right, they've gone for the Spirit Guide. We're going to draw a mana source that can cast this. We're not. Okay, let's just play this Thespian stage out. It's the one we care about getting wastelanded least out of these two, but we do need to commit cards into play. Otherwise, we're never going to be able to combo in any reasonable fashion. Here is a ponder from our opponent. Probably looking for wastelands to ruin our day. They have a wasteland. They think about wastelanding us in the upkeep. That's some curious timing to me. I would just do it straight away. Sejiri Steppe. Well, you're a land. You're not a good one. Aside from the times where you're the best land. Tamiyo, yep. Are they going to immediately become a planeswalker and just put that clock on us? They are indeed. Our deck is not too bad at ignoring Tamiyo. As long as they've cracked a fetch land at some point in a game, we're pretty good at beating Tamiyo. Because we tend to win before it pops. We don't care about the -1. The most annoying thing for us about Tamiyo is that it's a flying blocker that can kind of do some other stuff with a brainstorm around. Because they can block and then get more value the following turn. It doesn't look good for us here though. An Elvish Spirit Guide. I think we have to play out our Dark Depths. This means that we can draw Thespian Stage and deploy a Marit Lage next turn. That's something. If we draw an Urborg, we get to shred our opponent's hand. They can obviously buy back the important thing, unless it's a Brazen Borrower. Thoughtseize. Enjoy, opponent. You are a million miles ahead. If they want to, they can double Thoughtseize as well. If they've got a land, that is. Because they can just buy it back with the Tamiyo and fire it in again. But I suspect this Tamiyo is just going to be going upstairs and just winning the game in a couple of turns. We took our Spirit Guide, as I did before, just keeping us away from the mana we need to operate. It's also green mana, which is our tutors. So if we draw Urborg this turn, and then next turn draw Hexmage, that's probably our best bet. They got a clock. Well, they got two clocks, in fact. One is actual life total, the other one is just inevitable amount of cards that we can't beat. Urborg, please. Not an Urborg. Okay. We have one of each of the discard spells we play. Tamiyo is ready to pop. Now, there is a possibility that they don't draw the thing that kills us with a Tamiyo. So we do have to still play a little bit, I guess. If we draw nothing of note this turn. Alright, we're just going to scoop that one up. Our deck didn't really cooperate as well as it could have done there. Unfortunate. Let's go to the final round. We're unfortunately 2-2, so not doing very well. We can still get a positive record. Well, we're not keeping this one, are we? I think we send this one back. This is super slow. We can Sylvan Scrying on 2 and combo on 3 without doing anything on turn 1. We don't really impact the board with this either, but we do have protection. Okay, I'm going to keep it. I'm not in love with this one by any stretch of the imagination. If we had a Surveil land in our deck, this is one of the few times where that'd be good. But more often than not, when I've tested the Surveil lands, the come into play tapped has been detrimental. But if you only have one Bayou, by all means replace the other one with a Surveil land, and that's fine. Okay, our opponent is on an Undercity Sewer strategy. That covers a lot of different decks, to be fair. I'm going to get a Bayou, and I'm going to Thoughtseize my opponent. Am I going to get Bayou? Yes, I think I am. I'm just going to see a grip full of wastelands, perhaps. We're seeing one wasteland. Okay, so our opponent's still trying to live that reanimate life. I guess we will take your Force of Will. This hand looks pretty bad. They did top the card, so there's clearly something going on over there that they're happy about. They can wasteland our Bayou, which is why we maybe could have got a Swamp and this one could have been a Bayou. But if our opponent's spending a wasteland on a Bayou, it's not going to interfere with our combo later on. So we're kind of trading this land for a wasteland as if it was a wasteland of our own. Which I think is reasonable considering our deck has got enough mana in that we should be pretty reliably drawing it. Obviously we have had a game today where that wasn't the case. But just because you have a bad experience doesn't mean you shouldn't play based on the numbers. Brainstorm. That's pretty much the best card they could have had there, because their hand is terrible. So we're going to see this Polluted Delta, which means we're not getting wastelanded this turn, so we might be able to put a Marit Lage on a stack. Or into play. We did not draw what we required for that. Let's go and get a Bayou here. That's Ghost Quarter to play around the days we know about. And now we will Sylvan Scrying. I have to imagine there's some number of reanimates. Probably 2 of them have gone back. We're going to get the Dark Depths. So next turn we have access to Hexmage plus Depths around days. Okay, they naturally put this Atraxa into the graveyard. Pretty good. Okay, they took Atraxa, Wasteland, Animate Dead, the Thoughtseize that they're using now. Yep, we're in trouble. So they might be saying, oh no, is Blue-Black Reanimator still a thing? And the answer is yes, but the thing is, this deck is just a Reanimator deck now. It doesn't really have a backup plan. I've seen some builds that play like a couple of guys in the sideboard. That's not particularly exciting. They took the Disruptor Flute. They're trying to Wasteland our Bayou. How do I feel about that? I could Ghost Quarter this now, but we could also Ghost Quarter it on our turn, on our next turn. That's fine, I think. We need a piece of fast mana to get through the days, although, do they have double days or single days? I think it's single days they have. And that was just one of the Atraxa cards I didn't click off. And they got through one of the Wastelands. They're going to have to discard a bunch of stuff here. An Atraxa, not a surprise. A Dark Depths. I'm going to play out the Dark Depths and see if our opponent Wastelands it, and then we can turn it into a land that taps for the mana we require, and then we just need to find a little bit of mana to get through this days. But it's going to be much easier for us to hate on what our opponent's doing when we know that they can't really win with non-graveyard strategies very easily. So I still think this deck is going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be winning a quarter of all events, which was very much the case before the bans. I am a little bit worried about how good Tamiyo is, though, just in general for this deck. I'm going to go after our Dark Depths now. They binned off for days. They're going after our Bayou. That's very rude. Okay, I guess we're going to turn this into a swamp. So they binned off the days. Does that mean they don't have another one, or do they have another one? It doesn't matter because we don't draw the mana we need. So next turn we have to draw it or we're dead. Our opponent got pretty lucky to surveil land directly into the Atraxa. I didn't set that with a brainstorm, it was just a natural thing that happened. But they do have more monsters in their deck now because they have to play like 8 monsters or something to make this work. They're going to reanimate this Atraxa just to get some new cards. Let's see what those new cards are. We get to see more of our opponent's deck. So as you can see, there's nothing here. It's just reanimation, blue and black spells. There's not any other creature plan. It's just a Tamiyo, which can't actually win the game on its own, technically speaking. They got a Force of Will over there. I think I'm happy to concede and just go to game 2. Right, Faerie Macabres in. Don't know how many Brazen Borrowers they realistically get to play, but we'll take a couple of Novice Worlds as an option. We'll decide if we want them in a minute. We want all of our tech lands, so nothing comes out there. The Once Upon a Time can find us Faerie Macabre. It's probably Disruptor Flute. That gets us one of these Faerie Macabres. And Once Upon a Time, maybe we just get rid of Once Upon a Time, we just have a high density of Faerie Macabres. And then if we want another Not of This World, we can have it, but I don't think we do. They don't have the space to have a bunch of Brazen Borrowers anymore. Alright. I think our deck has had enough of us and doesn't want to play anymore. Okay, that's pretty good. I'll take that one. I'll bin off. I think I'm just going to bin off a Spirit Guide. It means we're going slightly slower, but it means we have more stable mana. Pithing Needle. Let's get this in there. Let's name Wasteland. We're going to get Thoughtseize, or are we going to see some Ponder here? Looks like we're getting Thoughtseized. I'm going to take my Faerie Macabre, presumably. They did indeed. Thespian Stage and Verdant Catacombs. So we can make an uncounterable 2020 next turn if we don't get Thoughtseized again. If we do get Thoughtseized, they could still take their Hexmage as a mistake. We're going to see here, Ponder or Tamiyo. Could be Careful Study, that's the thing that they have to play now. It's a Tamiyo. They're going to play a land and a Careful Study? No, it's a Swamp and nothing. Alright. I'll play this out and I'll crack this now. Because we have the Pithing Needle, I'm quite happy just to get a Bayou here. Just in case our opponent has like a random Stifle, we might as well fetch here. It's free to do so. We're going to do it anyway. Gives us more flexibility in terms of what we cast moving forward if our first attempt fails. Also means after we've done this, we can have a nice little Boseiju activation. Going to attack with the Tamiyo. I'm just going to allow this to happen. Surveil land. You've got it. Because they have things like Arc of Cruelty, I don't want to make this in combat and give them a chance to just get my guy. I think we are sending it here. Our hand is halfway towards sending it again. God, I really dislike this avatar token. Alright, they did have the Brazen Borrower. In the list I've seen, they're playing 2 of these total. Are we playing into days or not here? I don't think we need to play into days, we can just pass. It does mean they're going to accrue some more value with this Tamiyo. Thoughtseize. Very much punished for not going for the Hexmage's turn. Careful Study. This is going to flip the Tamiyo. We also just lost our answer to Tamiyo in the Hexmage. Here we're going to lose this one. They've got plenty of cool stuff to do in the graveyard here. And getting back an Arc of Cruelty. Would I rather them have a card or a land? I think I would rather they had a land than a random card. That does give them the land now rather than later. So maybe that's not ideal. This is all very familiar, isn't it? It's getting beaten down by Blue-Red Reanimator again. But they are so much weaker to Graveyard Hate now. Our opponent's hand was just incredibly good. And that's going to happen sometimes. So this creature is going to die to the Archon trigger. But it can... Oh, it had the Force as well. Sure, you got it all, opponent. You can have it. So our opponent's deck has to have a lot of stuff to go right to look like this. Now, it's not impossible that Blue-Red Reanimator ends up being a problem still. But I don't think it is a problem at the moment, but we'll see. And Tamiyo is probably the thing that goes to fix it if it is. Alright, so we had a very bad 2-3 today. If we look at the scores, the 2 tempo decks we split the games with, and we got an unfortunate game or 2 in each of them. So the Blue-Red Delver matchup was the one where we had a Multi 5 that didn't pan out, or was it a Multi 4? I can't remember now. And we had that one game where we bricked for like 5 turns, even though our opponent drew really, really well. We still were on to win the game if we drew better than we did, and we drew abysmally. So I'm pretty happy with the deck, more or less. I think the sideboard definitely needs a little bit of readdressing. I don't think we can feel too sour about that last round. Our opponent did just have all the right things to disrupt us. I think I'm sort of airing off of Disruptor Flute in the main deck in some of the builds. I've tried a few builds without it, and I've been quite liking it. I wanted to sort of try something closer to what was the stock prior to the banning, so that you could sort of see the evolution a little bit more. I think when we're playing this next time, we're probably looking at removing a Disruptor Flute in favour of another Duress. And then we're going to mess around with the sideboard. I don't like the Void Mirror that much. I understand what it's trying to do for us, except in the games I've played, it's been very feast or famine. I did have a few games I've played on my own where this was really good against like the blue Cloud Post deck and just stopped them from being able to kill my guy, and then we just managed to win the game because of it. But then there was like the game against Useful Spells where I would have much preferred to have a Collector Roof in here. So we'll sort of go back and forth on what we want to do with that one. Because the Void Mirror does also shut off our own Not of This World when we're trying to do that. However, if this is shutting off the Kozilek's command, we don't need Not of This World in those matchups. Although against Cloud Post, it's possible they can put blue mana into it to get through the Void Mirror and still Kozilek's command us. So maybe we're just better off just trying to stop their things with a Null Rod here. Not sure about the Graveyard Hate. We could obviously change this, but this can be found with Once Upon a Times if we want that for certain matchups as well. Not so great against Oops. We kind of need to see how the Reanimator decks are going to shake out moving forward and what the best way to attack them is going to be. Our Reanimator matchup was slightly positive before the bans. Not by much. It was like a 51% matchup. But in theory, we should be better against them now because their deck is worse. Although we were one of the decks that didn't actually care about their creature Duke plan, because that just wasn't a relevant thing for us to care about. But the efficiency with which they found creatures in their old lists with the Entomb was really strong. So we might actually be worse against these new builds. But in theory, we should just be able to just increase the amount of Graveyard Hate. Maybe we trim a Void Mirror and add in a 4th Faerie Macabre. And there's some little tinkering we can do around the edges. If you're interested in this deck, by all means check out my Patreon. Like I said, before Eternal Weekend, I will be putting up a new sideboard guide for this against what the potential top decks are. Obviously, we're not going to be 100% sure because there's not the most amount of time between now and Eternal Weekend to see how things shake out. But once again, thank you so much for watching. If you would like to support me, you can do that on Patreon. You can just send me a couple of dollars a month if you want, or more if you want to support me more. You can also become a member on YouTube and do that and see my videos early. Alright, plugs over and done with. I hope you had a nice time today. Thanks for watching and goodbye.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbo Depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles. And lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.